Bald and Bankrupt is the YouTube channel name of Benjamin Rich, an English former businessman and vlogger who found recognition through his travel vlogs. His YouTube channel has amassed almost 600 million views and over 3.85 million subscribers in about 5 years of infrequent uploads, inspiring his online moniker, Mr. Bald. He wanted to visit unknown parts of remote countries, often requiring him to venture into dangerous areas. However, through his charisma and warm personality, Mr. Bald showed that not all people seek to profit from tourists, sometimes through scamming and false stories. People who only knew him for minutes readily invited him into their homes, offered him a meal, and shared their often challenging life stories. Mr. Bald initially focused on visiting former Soviet Union states such as Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Ukraine because he spoke Russian fluently and knew minute details of the Soviet Union's history. Contrast allowed him to find a global audience. He was from the UK and lived in the Western world for a long time. Here's how Mr. Bald found his niche and how much he earned. Many travel vloggers stick to visiting eye-catching tourist destinations such as Bali and the Maldives, or sightseeing such as the Colosseum in Rome, Italy, or the pyramids in Giza in Egypt. Mr. Bald was different. He branched out to countries tourists rarely visit, are inaccessible without a permit, or don't officially exist, such as Transnistria in Moldova. He also went to isolated parts of large countries such as India and Russia. While there, Mr. Bald focused on the residents, thoroughly researched the location's history, and occasionally rewarded people's fairness and generosity monetarily. He found that people with little to offer in terms of money seem content with what they have and have much to teach viewers at home. Mr. Bald recognized that since his journey had started when his business collapsed and he was faced with the uncertainty of life. In his case, that included nearly dying, being arrested, and barred from entering Russia. On a positive note, he'd made more than enough money to fund his travels and has a net worth of about $2 million. Benjamin Ben Rich, born on the 1st of July 1974, established his online presence on YouTube as Bald and Bankrupt on the 12th of June 2018. His shaved head was the apparent inspiration for the channel name and his online nickname. An undisclosed failed business venture, which forced him to file for bankruptcy in the UK, inspired the Bankrupt part. That failure prompted him to try low-cost travel while he got his life on the right path and he headed to India. His first videos involved his admiration for the culture, adoration for female law enforcement officers, and equal interest in seeing tourist spots such as the Taj Mahal, but also remote, poverty-stricken locations. From the get-go, Mr. Bald displayed his warm personality as he efficiently communicated with English-speaking Indians he met on the road. After he admitted that he hadn't been to India in 20 years, some took him on road trips to places that foreigners never see, from villages to lesser-known temples and monasteries. Others invited him into their less-than-modest homes that housed 2 or more generations. Mr. Bald also impressed residents and YouTube viewers with his 2-part series about learning to speak Hindi and his knowledge of the country's religious and caste systems. From the beginning, some viewers could glimpse Mr. Bald's fondness for the Soviet Union. This transcontinental country existed between 1922 and 1991 and involved up to 15 Soviet socialist republics with Russia at the helm. That was unsurprising, as terms such as babushka, meaning grandmother, borscht soup, and random Russian words slipped into his vocabulary. Mr. Bald visited Belarus and Russia in August 2018 and began filming reviews of hotels and restaurants built and popularized during the Soviet Union era. However, he was already familiar with the region as he promoted his book, The Burning Edge, Traveling Through Irradiated Belarus, published under the pen name Arthur Chichester on the 12th of April 2018. On that note, Mr. Bald also went to the most dangerous and poorest towns in Dagestan and Chechnya and visited Lake Baikal for the general audience. Mr. Bald spent the second half of 2018 in India, but introduced a novelty. He began collaborating. In September 2023, he met Harold Balder, a fellow travel vlogger from Norway with over 2.35 million YouTube subscribers. Carl Rock, a New Zealand blogger and YouTuber living in India with his wife, whom Mr. Bald considered an acquaintance, was often referenced in their videos. That's because Mr. Bald and Harold ran into scammers, beggars, and dishonest people trying to take advantage of them, and Carl's content focused on unveiling India's swindlers. The 2 vloggers traveled by motorcycles, buses, rickshaws, and trains, and stayed at various hotels and motels to show breathtaking sights and meet good-hearted people. In December, Mr. Bald published 2 videos, 10 Things I Hate About India, and Avoiding Religious Scammers and Touts in Varanasi, as a wrap-up of his journey and a warning to viewers who want to retrace his steps. He headed to Burma, returned to India, and afterwards stayed in Belarus. During that time, the New Delhi publication The New Learn praised his videos, thanking him for introducing the world to an authentic India where people still open up their lunchbox to strangers. Tea is the beginning of lifelong associations, trust means more than money, and vibrancy is everywhere. By May 2019, Mr. Bald had visited Moldova and Transnistria, the unrecognized part of Moldova with a separate government, military, parliament, police, and currency. After that journey, he once again arrived in Minsk, the capital of Belarus. However, this trip marked another turning point for his YouTube channel. He introduced his female friend Alina Adzika, whom he called Alinchik. They explained that they were equally fascinated by the way of the Gopnik subculture of the youth in Russia and Belarus and wanted to learn more. They mentioned some stereotypes of a male and female member, Gopnik and Gopnista, such as eating sunflower seeds, wearing Adidas and Puma tracksuits, listening to hard bass and chanson music, and doing the so-called Slav squats in groups. That position involves a person in a deep squat with their butt almost touching the ground and their knees reaching the chest. They explored Belarus, Russia, and Georgia for a few months until Mr. Bald went to Bolivia. During that time, the viewers speculated whether the two were romantically involved, which was intentional. However, people who bought his 2018 book ruined the guessing game. Mr. Bald wrote that the acknowledgments section that he turned to his girlfriend Alina, whom he knew he could rely upon for brutal Belarusian honesty where it was needed. In the Cold Ones podcast episode from July 2019, Swedish YouTuber PewDiePie, among the platform's most subscribed users, said that Bald and Bankrupt is his favorite YouTube channel. In November 2019, Mr. Bald traveled to Chechnya, a Russian republic, and had a wonderful time for the most part. However, he slipped up and referred to one woman as a Chechnyan chick, prompting the Chechen authorities to call out his disparaging word choice, forcing him to apologize publicly. He escaped that situation unscathed and went to Kalmykia, Azerbaijan, Cuba, and Mauritania. Mr. Bald then traveled to Serbia in May 2020 to avoid rigorous COVID-19 pandemic restrictions and live comfortably for a few months. However, he inexplicably vanished shortly afterwards, starting rumors that he'd passed away, but resurfaced online around August, saying that he nearly died from coronavirus because he didn't take precautions, then disregarded increasingly dangerous symptoms for 10 days before he sought help. A week-long stay in Serbia's intensive care unit, organized by the Russian embassy, saved his life as he had multiple organ failures, low blood oxygen, and could barely breathe. He urged his viewers to take the coronavirus seriously, but later deleted the video, a decision that many criticized. Mr. Bald escaped with his life and reconnected with Alina for some trips, visiting the Czech Republic, Albania, Mexico, and Kyrgyzstan. He also went to Estonia, Ukraine, Lithuania, and Serbia. He made a considerable mistake in May 2022, shortly after uploading the video entering a mysterious enclave you've never heard of in a Soviet biplane. News surfaced that he'd visited the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan and was immediately arrested by Russian police for unsanctioned entry to a guarded site. He wanted to see the Buran spaceplane, the first plane in the Soviet Buran space program, and the country's first operational shuttle orbiter. It completed one space flight in 1988, but was destroyed in 2002 after its storage hangar crumpled. Mr. Bald posted a 31-minute video update on the 1st of September 2022, explaining that it would be his last from Russia. He clarified that authorities immediately grabbed him and Alina at the Cosmodrome and questioned them for about 7 hours. They released them after each paid a fine of about £50 or around $62 US. But that wasn't the worst. Mr. Bald said that his love for Russia began at 17 in teacher Anna's Russian class, which he explained to the authorities, but he had been banned from entering the country for 3 years. He previously described Vladimir Putin as crazy and was raising funds for Ukraine after the war broke out on the 24th of February 2022, following Russia's invasion. Additionally, the video description suggests that he doesn't plan to return after the ban expires. Mr. Bald's primary source of income is his proceeds from YouTube. He didn't quit filming after the problems with Russia and instead visited Afghanistan, Japan, and Vietnam. He then headed to Peru, Laos, Colombia, and Mongolia in the first half of 2023. Almost exactly a year after he was banned from Russia, on the 4th of September, Mr. Bald posted a video from Bangladesh where he plans to stay for a while. Although Alina wasn't by his side, friendly locals made up for that, and Mr. Bald visited the country's mighty rivers and was shocked by the affordability. For instance, although expensive by the country's living standards, he found that a VIP ticket on a cruise ship was only $12 US. He could afford it many times over. According to socialblade.com, Mr. Bald made up to $70,000 between late August and mid-September 2023. However, the result is skewed by an algorithm change that reduced his total view count by 12.5 million on the 7th of September and increased it by 15 million on the 11th of September. If we assume that he gained 2.5 million viewers in those few days, Mr. Bald made about $22,000 in about 15 days and earned about $44,000 per month, so he could make over $520,000 in 2023. Mr. Bald regularly gets up to 5 million views on each video and has amassed over 595 million views in 5 years. We can utilize Social Blade's default CPM, cost per thousand, range of 25 cents to $4 per 1,000 impressionable views. With those numbers in mind, Mr. Bald's made between $150,000 and $2.4 million from his YouTube career. He briefly mentioned that some places that he visited looked better than his apartment in Britain, but it's hard to tell if he genuinely owns one or is being witty. If so, he likely rents it out while he's gone. His operating costs are low. Mr. Bald films the videos and only has living and traveling expenses. He carries a laptop and presumably edits videos as he travels. Considering that the places he visits are in third-world countries, Mr. Bald probably kept most of the profits. Mr. Bald has a line of t-shirts that he sells for between $22 and $26. However, he launched the design in collaboration with creator Spring, and the company usually takes a cut for printing and packaging and shipping the t-shirts. Creator Spring uses a slightly different model. It's free to use but calculates a base service cost, allowing the creator to determine a profit margin. If we assume that the base cost of a t-shirt is $10, which Creator Spring uses as an example in their pricing strategy for shirts, Mr. Bald earns between $12 and $16 for every product that he sells. However, his designs are full color, large, and quite complex, so he realistically makes under $10 per shirt. Unlike any other YouTubers, he rarely wears or promotes his creations. Online records indicate that he created the store in 2021. Therefore, we can assume that Mr. Bald's made approximately $200,000. Also, other sellers use the Bald and Bankrupt name for their designs on redbubble.com and sharkshirts.in and amazon.com. Mr. Bald can only pursue them in court if he trademarked the phrase or the logo, but he might still get a cut of the profits. Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpick these videos, which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on all social medias or ask a question in the comments below. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.